Right, Mr. Claxon's algebra class, coming back to percentage problems. I showed you a common sense way to deal with whenever it says find a percentage of a number, right? Now, we're looking at what percent of 80 is 10. Now, if we think about this, what percent of 80 is 10? I could think of about that as 10 is what percent of 80 as well. So 10 is what percent of 80. Now, the easiest way to do that, mentally, if you're thinking, if you think about that as, what is 80% of 10? Well, 10 is, let's see, 10 divided by 80 should give me that percentage. At that point, it's, after I get rid of these zeros here, it's the same as 1/8. So really, all I'm trying to do is write 1 over 8 as a decimal and then multiply it by 100. 1 over 8, well, let's think about that. 1/8. Well, I know what 1/4 is, Mr. Claxon. 1/4, I could write that as 0.250. I can write that as 250 thousandths. So I know that 1/8 is just half of that. 1/8 is half of 1/4. So I'm going to look back up here and say, well, that's 0.125, because half of 250 is 125. Now, I know that I'm not done yet. I got to multiply that by 100, okay? And when I multiply that by 100, all I'm doing is I'm making it a qualified percentage. Let me go back there, because I didn't mean to write that. I meant to write multiplied by 100. So when I multiply that by 100, I know that I can end with 12.5 percent. Okay, 12.5%. That is what percent of 80 10 is. Okay, so it's 12.5%, and I found that just by dividing. You could have also used is over of equals percentage over 100. If we would have used is over of equals percentage over 100, I'm coming down here and I'm saying, let's see, what percent of 80 is 10? I know that what percent, that is my variable. So my variable is actually in the percentage spot. I identify that first. That percentage spot's just easy. It leaves me less room for error. Over here on the left-hand side, I see of 80. Of 80. What percent of 80 is 10? So of correlates with 80. Is correlates with 10. And if you look at that, all I'm doing is taking 10 and dividing it by 80 there. Then I'm multiplying it by 100. If you work this out, you get x equals 10 times 100 divided by 80. 10 times 100 divided by 80. Well, I know, Mr. Claxon, come on, let's get rid of some of these zeros. It's like saying 1 times 100 divided by 8, okay, which is the same as 100 divided by 8, which is kind of what I did over here. I said 1 divided by 8 and then multiply it by 100. It really is the same thing. I know that I'm going to get 12.5. Now that 12.5, that's not a number, that is a percentage here. I was trying to find the percentage. So you got to make sure that you include that percentage. Okay, so that right there is how you make a common sense example out of what percent of 80 is 10. It's kind of written weird. You have to think about it a little bit. I always like to think about what it means common sense-wise. So let's go over here. 8 is 20% of what number? Well, right here, mentally, 8 is 20% of what number? What I'm thinking is 8 is 20%. Okay, So what would I need to multiply 20% by to get 100%? What would I need to multiply 20% by to get 100%? And the answer is I need to multiply 20% by 5. So I know that I can multiply this 8 over here by 5. I know that 8 times 5 is 40. Okay? So 40 represents 100%. Okay? So what that means is 8 is 20% of 40. 8 is 20% of 40. And if you think about it like that, in a common sense terms, okay, it actually is a lot easier. Or you could come over here and use is over of equals percent over 100. I'm just going to set that up real quick so you can see that is the tried and true method. I have my percentage, like I said, it is 20 over 100. And filling that in first just helps me out over here. It helps me not to make mistakes. I know 8 is, I know what goes in the is spot, and what's left is my variable. You can write that as x equals 100, which looks like 1 times infinity up there. My bad on that. Looks like 106 down here. That's actually 100. It's 100 times 8, by the way. Getting sloppy here. 100 times 8 divided by 20. 100 times 8 divided by 20. Well, I know since I'm multiplying, Mr. Claxon, I could say 10 times 8 divided by 2. I know 8 divided by 2 is 4. 8 divided by 2 is 4, so that's the same as 10 times 4, or you could take 80 divided by 2. Either way, you're going to come down here. You know that 40%, okay, or not 40, you know that 40 is, 8 is 20% of 40. Alright, so that's how to think of it both in common sense terms and then in the tried and true method. Now the tried and true method will work on all tests. Mentally, though, that's what we need to use out in the real world. Okay, this gives you a means by which to calculate problems. This gives you a little common sense, a little number sense, okay, when you're outside of these walls. Hopefully you found some benefit in this. I can continue to do problems for you. Please let me know what you think about this video by either liking it or commenting on it. And if your comment is approved, then we'll go ahead and throw it on the site. Thank you very much for watching.